Welcome to Notorious Crafts. In this video, I will show you how I decorate this miniature test tube set. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and check out some of the other videos where I make dollhouse miniatures. And here are some of the supplies that you will need, and product links are down in the description below. You will need a miniature test tube set, some tiny resin beads, different colored glitter, crafting resin. I also have these colored resin beads, some gold foil flakes, and also some resin dye. I'll start by adding some of the crafting resin into my silicone mixing bowl. And then I'm going to grab some of my gold flakes. And this first one, I'm going to make it look like a test tube filled with liquid gold. I use a toothpick to get some of the resin inside of the test tube, and I just push it down all the way to the bottom using the toothpick. And using the same toothpick, I grab some of the gold foil flakes and then just push them down into the test tube. The resin is very sticky, so the gold foil sticks to the sides of the test tube. And then I just continue that process of adding a little bit of gold flakes and then adding a little bit more resin little by little until the test tube is fully filled up. And now the test tube is fully filled with gold flakes and resin, and it is ready to go under my LED light to be cured and hardened. The second test tube that I'm going to make is going to be an orange colored one. So here's everything that I am using. I'm, of course, starting off using some of my crafting resin and placing it inside of a clean silicone mixing cup. To get the orange color, I'm using a few drops of this opaque orange resin dye and then mixing it well together using a toothpick. And then I'm using that same toothpick to place some of the resin inside. And then I'm also going to add these orange beads inside of the test tube so that it looks like there's something a little bit more inside of this mix. I put them in one by one, and then I use the toothpick to push them further down to the bottom. And to make it look like the test tube exploded and spilled over, I'm just placing some of the resin on this silicone mat, and then I'm going to place my test tube right on top of this spilled resin. And then I'm just going to place some of these beads inside of the spilled resin. And then I'm covering the beads in just a really thin layer of some of the extra resin that I have. And then that way it'll also help encase them so that they don't ever try to pop out. And now after adding a few more of the beads, I'm placing it under my LED light to cure and harden. For my third test tube, I am following a very similar process as I did with the second orange one, but this one will be blue and this one will not look like it exploded. I will add some of the blue beads, and I'm adding some blue resin dye right now. And now I'm just using that same toothpick and filling up the test tube with the resin and then also adding in the beads. I'm mostly adding in the smallest beads that are in the set that I bought. Some of the other ones are just way too big, so I'm just grabbing the smaller ones. And then I'm just pushing down the resin along with the beads to the very bottom of the test tube, since a lot of it kept getting stuck at the top. And then I'm just going to keep repeating the same process until the test tube is completely filled with resin and the beads, and then I will place it underneath a UV light to harden. For the fourth test tube, I want it to look like green slime. I actually don't have transparent green resin dye, so I'm just mixing some yellow and blue transparent resin dye together to get green. After I'm done mixing it, I'm just going to place some of the resin inside of the test tube, and I'm just going to keep filling it up until it is completely full. I wish there was an easier way to get these test tubes full, it just took a while to get them full. I also dabbed some of the extra resin on the side so it looks like it is slightly spilling out of the test tube. And then place this under my LED light so that it can harden. Here are the 4 test tubes that I have made so far, and here's the gold one, the green slime, the blue bubbles, and then the orange one that spilled over. I'm just going to keep that one just laying it there. For my 5th test tube, I'm going to mix resin and glitter together. So I think I'm going to use some of the purple one, this really dark purple one. So I'm just starting off with resin in my mixing bowl and then adding a little bit of glitter at a time and then mixing it all together. And then 1 drop at a time, I added my resin glitter into the test tube. One thing that I noticed with the purple glitter was that the color started dissolving into the resin, so you want to move it very quickly so that your resin doesn't change color. And then once I was done, I placed it under a UV light so that it hardened. And here's how all of the final test tubes look together. I'm going to paint the base of the test tube stand. I don't like how it looks like unfinished craft wood, so I am going to use some brown acrylic paint and just paint over the entire piece of wood. And here's how the stand looks once all the paint is fully dry. Now it's time to place all of the test tubes inside of my stand. I also really like how all of these different colors and textures work together really well. I did plan that out so that everything looked slightly different from one another, and I absolutely love the final finish of it. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of it and if you would have done anything different or maybe some different colors or textures. As always, thank you so much for watching and see you guys in the next video.